how does it work when decision making when you disagree? Because I know what it works like in my. Welcome to Behind the Frame, where we go beyond the LinkedIn bios and Instagram highlight reels to talk about what really happens when you're building something from scratch. I'm Jay Duffy, co-founder of Frame Wealth Partners, business owner, husband, dad, and guy who still wonders if winging it counts as a legitimate growth strategy. Spoiler, it does sometimes. Join me and my amazing co-hosts, Morgan Watson and Annette Quigley, as we sit down with someone who's built a business or is knee-deep in the messy middle of it. And we talk about the real stuff, the pivots, the late nights, the wins no one celebrated, and the lessons no one warned them about. So grab a coffee or something stronger. We're going behind the frame. Welcome back to Behind the Frame. I am Jay Duffy, co-founder of Frame Wealth Partners. This is where we kind of pull back the curtain. We listen to the wins, the wipeouts of most entrepreneurs. With me today is my great co-host, Annette Quigley. Thankfully, it's not Morgan Watson today. And we brought a good friend, friend of yours today as well.
Correct.
But before we get to them, let's talk about weekend wins. What was your weekend win?
So my weekend win was I shopped until I dropped at the outlets, and all of my Christmas shopping is done. So that's a big relief.
Good deals?
Really good deals, and spent way too much money, but now all I have to do is wrap, and I can enjoy the rest of the season.
That's awesome. That's awesome. For me, Annette, the win, actually two wins. One, we had James playing soccer. They made the playoffs, but what was really interesting is that I think the oldest kid is 10 years old, and they all played up in the under 12 league. So they were literally the smallest kids out there. And so they got to the semifinals, which was pretty cool. They won a big game against a very, very large team that had 14-year-olds on it.
Awesome.
And they're all under the age of 10. And then the last one is I'm officially a cheer dad. My youngest 5-year-old, she is cheering for the Hereford Bulls. Go Bulls. And so I went to my first cheerleading competition.
Just as long as you're not a helicopter parent.
It's just I don't wish that upon anyone that that has kids. That I'm all for her doing cheerleading, but it is not fun to watch. It really is, and it's tough.
And it's a tough sport in general.
It is. It is.
It really is.
It is.
You can get injured, so.
But
not
she
just about
hit her
pom-poms.
cartwheel. It was perfect, and they got fourth out of I think 10 teams, and
Awesome.
she's the youngest on the team. So
Awesome.
mom loves it.
Proud mom and dad moment.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, speaking of shaping the next generation, we have some guests, great friends of mine, Cory Skidmore and Stefanie Skidmore, and they have basically built a business that is surrounding family and community, but more importantly, stemming from your own parenthood of three, children, and knowing the importance of building a foundation. And I know one of your main, kind of mantras is protect and educate, and basically, just endure through the world that we live in today, right? Just establishing quality education, but also not just, hey, we're going to give you this curriculum and we're going to, teach you ABCs, but it's more so, let's develop you as a little human and, give you some things that perhaps we're going to, carry through the rest of your life, So welcome to Cory and Stefanie. We're really glad to have you guys here today and learn a little bit about, your Celebree School. Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's start off with the origin. What brought you, or how did you start getting involved with Celebree?
For us, it started out very personally. All three of our children went to Celebree.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
So we had that parent experience, right? That every parent goes through. That goes through daycare, right? And when Celebree opened up the franchise model, I was working in my job and she was working on her job, and it just made sense for us at that time, based off our experience, then to take this opportunity, right? Because we always wanted to work together.
Sure.
So we took that opportunity, right? And that's really what got us into the Celebree model, right? Was seeing how our children were so prepared for kindergarten readiness.
Yeah.
Right, which was so important.
So important.
Them hitting all their own little milestones, because every child goes on their own separate journey, right? But the overall, right, philosophy, right, is right this whole child approach and making them prepared. And for us, seeing how well they were just prepared for kindergarten readiness was just so important to us, and it just made sense.
That's awesome.
Yep.
What did you guys do before becoming entrepreneurs?
I worked at an assisted living facility.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. That's tough
So
work too.
Yes. So still dealing with, families and the older generation, but still having that one-on-one with people and
Yeah.
just that care for others.
How about yourself?
I work for a private ambulance transportation company.
Okay.
So we did with a lot of transportation work in sedan, wheelchair, ambulance. We were multi-state. So I was one of the VP of operations guys, and so that's where I spent probably my last 25 years was with that company, Heart to Heart. Right.
Oh, I know exactly where that is.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
In
Correct.
Forest Hill? Is it
Yes, sir.
Forest?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
So when you first decided that you're going to finally have the chance to work together, what went into dividing the roles? Like who would do what? Like more operations, more of the marketing side of it? Like how did you come to that?
I mean, for us, I mean, it's always been a joint venture, right? So you share those responsibilities, right? To this day, right, we still blend so much of what we do every day,
Okay.
right? We're now just getting into the process where, right, we both have our specific roles, but when we first started, it was all hands on deck.
Yeah.
Anybody that started any company, anybody that's been in the business, right? Any young entrepreneurs out there,
Yeah.
there's no set duties. It's an all out effort, right? During these initial startup times, those first couple of years. Yep.
Yeah. You hear that, aspiring entrepreneurs? You got to work your butt off.
Yes, indeed.
What, for both of you, what surprised you most about, you're going from a, W-2 job to becoming an entrepreneur? What surprised you the most?
I don't know if there really was a surprise. I mean, obviously you're your own boss. You really don't have to answer to anybody else. But I mean, if anything, it's been a fun journey, like getting to know that you can do things on your own. Like you don't have to really rely on somebody else.
Yeah.
It's been obviously you're starting a new business, so there are some stresses and some difficulties, but
Sure.
overall it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. So
It's awesome.
I think personally for me, I mean, it's the realization of, right, defining, right, our future, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that, right, we're shaping that path, right, versus somebody else.
Yeah.
Versus somebody else, right, dictating, right, to me, right, in that aspect, right? So for us, right, when you look at, Celebree, right, one of the things that we really drew us to Celebree, right, was the legacy that we can, create not only for ourselves now, but for our family in the future, right?
Yeah.
Especially long-term with our children, grandchildren and so forth. So, right, being able to define our future was a huge component, right, of what we wanted to do personally.
Yeah, and to your point, Stephanie, being your own business owner, there's pros and cons to that. It's like, hey, when you're your own boss, well, the only person you can look at to blame everything is the person in the mirror. So there's pros and cons to it, but I totally get it. So how do you guys? I want to move into more about culture, team, and leadership within Celebree. How do you recruit and retain teachers that share the same values that you're trying to instill with your franchise?
So that's one of the things that really drew us to Celebree, right, was our, our experience with the teachers, right? And, right, as we onboard with Celebree and we did our Meet the Team Day, right, when we first came aboard, right, some of those philosophies, right, those processes in which they talk about, right, in which they, hold themselves accountable through, right, every day, is what, right, we learned about, and what really drove us, right, to help us make our decision, right, to venture into the franchise model. Right, and part of that process, right, is learning about, their competencies, right? What really separates Celebree away from other early child care, right, centers, right, or other early child care, right, corporations or businesses or however you want to frame it. for us, right, is, right, they had a very, defined approach, right? And that approach was, right, through their competencies of talent, brand, and operations. So when you're talking about how do they source the best and the brightest, they do it through their competencies, right? Which is, in our world, right, and one of the things that we focus on, it's just, there's simple, subset of competencies that they look at as well, right? One of them is what they refer to as like recruit hired staff, which is, right, their core of, right, that you should always be recruiting, you should always be hiring, you should always be looking at staffing, right? Coaching up, right? Because Celebree is very big on, right, onboarding people, right, that have a passion for what they do, right?
Gotcha.
Not somebody that's just looking to collect a check, right, or right, just, glorified babysitter, right? They want people that are passionate about the process and that are committed to either a skills path, right, developing their skills path, always working on that, or developing, right, a career path, right? Or are they on a pathway to becoming an intern to assistant teacher, or a teacher to a school support manager, right, or curriculum manager, or they have aspirations of being in administration one day, right? So these are the types of people that we're evaluating when we're going through our interview process. And Celebree very much culturally is based, right, on their employee investment cycle, right, which just supports that process.
Right.
So for us, when we experienced that, when we saw what they do, and we experienced it firsthand while being parents at Celebree, right, like it just helped layer that, that confidence of, right, hey, we're making a great decision with going with this organization, right?
Yeah.
Right, as a
What's
franchisee.
that interview process like? I know I'm stealing a lot of questions here, but
That's okay.
It's fairly in depth. It's like anything else, right? Tools are only good as those that are utilizing it.
Sure.
So you can pencil whip a process, right? Or you can buy into why Celebree's different, right? And part of their interview worksheet is, again, it's all based off competencies, right?
Gotcha.
We have subset questions that we like that are just custom to, right, how we operate as, franchisees, right?
Right.
But, in generality, right, as a whole, they have a specific document, which is their interview worksheet, right? So you have interview worksheets that are based on talent, brand, and operations, and there's specific questions that go along with that to really help pull out that information from those potential new hires. Because again, as owner operators, right, we're not educators by nature, right?
Right.
We when we opened up our welcome center, right, and I'm interviewing, right, for directors, right. How do I interview for a director, right, and be competent in that process? Well, Celebree gives you the tools, right, to do that, right? It's kind of like, they give you the ingredients to bake a cake.
Yeah.
It's your choice right now. You want to follow the ingredients,
Exactly.
up or not.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that thought process. So
Okay.
It's very, very in depth, right, in terms of, right, how well you use their tools to do their job, right, and it proves itself out. Awesome.
So how would you say, everyone's always trying to scale and grow their business. You're trying to increase, the enrollees in your business. So how do you balance all of that while still managing, your own family? How do you find that work-life balance?
That is very important to us. So we want to make sure that, obviously with childcare, you're going to have your call outs here and there. So even with our directors, we want to make sure that not only our directors, but our teachers are having that life-work balance, because, you will get to a point where if it's all work, 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 you will eventually, burn out. So we want to make sure that, if we're providing the support that we need as owners to the directors, and down, the directors providing it to the teachers too. So there's always support. We all work as a team. And we just provide that day in and day out. So.
And how about the two of you? Because you need a work-life balance also. So as the, starting this business, which is taking off, and I know you shared that there are plans to open, a second location. So what does that look like? Like, how do you find the time to balance it all?
I think it's like anything, right? It's what does that day behold for you, right? Some days are easier than other days. Some days, right, you may work 14 hours, right? Some days, right, you may have a lighter day, right? Especially when you're opening up. I mean, it wasn't unusual, right? When we were doing the welcome center, right? Because part of the process that Celebree goes through, right, even before your building opens its doors, right, you have a welcome center, right, trying to generate those community connections, getting out to the community, doing grassroots marketing, right, trying to really build up your census before your doors ever open, so you have a welcome center, right. So for us, right, we are the very first franchisees in Delaware, right. So for us, that's an hour and 10-minute drive,
Yeah.
one way,
Yeah.
right. So on top of being open for 10 hours, right, for your welcome center. So just in that time period right there, you're talking a 12-hour day, right? That's if you don't get stuck at the job site, right? Dealing with, GC, right? Dealing with any construction issues or anything along those lines that may, occupy your time. But it's like anything else, it's very much, a commitment that most people don't understand how much it really takes until you're into the weeds of it, right?
Sure.
Right, and, it's not for everybody, right, obviously. But, once you're in the mix, right, and for us, our work-life balance, right, is really centered around, right, our kids. Yeah. For me, personally and professionally, if I'm there for my kids enough, right, to where, I can be at their practices and I can, be at their games, right, that's my work-life balance.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what.
That's where you
drives
spend
us.
your
Right.
free time. Yeah.
Right. 100%.
Makes sense. For you guys, we talk to a lot of business owners that are partners but not also married. How does it work when decision making when you disagree? Because I know what it works like in my household. My wife Megan wins. I just say yes, you win. I was like, can I win one next year maybe? But what happens for you guys? Because it's a business now.
I think that's such a great question because, and chime in, right? So I think it's such a great question and the aspects are right. Especially when you're with your leadership team, right?
Yeah.
Right. Are you being real? Right? Because people can see what's real, which is, right, people, right, basically, capitulating, right, just so they don't have to answer, right, or whatever. One of the things, we openly debate,
Okay.
right?
I like that.
All right, there is,
Even at this, like, if we're in a meeting with the director, I have an opinion, I'll say my
100%.
opinion, and he'll jump in with his opinion, and it won't be the same thing. So they can see that even though the four of us are a team administratively, like, that we're also gonna disagree on things within, the business, and we, gotta work through it together as a team,
Yeah.
so.
sometimes I'm coming at it with my 20-plus years in operations and looking at it from the optic of, right, of operations and seeing all the things I've seen over 20 years, right?
Sure.
And having, 100-plus units on the road, 300-plus employees every day out there doing something.
Yeah.
Right? So, right, and so for us, right, we actually find it's very healthy.
Yeah.
Right? When you have enough comfort and trust, right, with your not only your better half, right, but your partner, right,
Yeah.
co-owner, right,
Yeah.
as well as your leadership team, right. Your leadership team understands, and they can expect, right, to hear and see that, right.
I just think it's probably tougher for you guys because, even though you may disagree at work, it's like, do you hold on to that when you go home? That's awesome. That's awesome. Because again, we for our team, I mean, we have what we call kind of what you guys do, radical transparency in our team meetings.
have to have
And we're as Morgan would like to say, we're as blunt as a shovel to the head sometimes.
Right.
But I don't, and that's not my wife. I don't have to, deal with her at home as well. I wonder how you guys do that.
It's like, for me, I kind of equate it to what I always tell my kids about sports, right? When you make a bad play,
Yeah.
you got to have short-term memory,
Yep.
right? You can't hold on to it, right? You just got to either learn from it, move on, right? Or try to figure out, right, how to make it better, right?
Sure.
So obviously, there's always plenty of times where, right, we've disagreed on something, right, and we need to have further conversation, right? But at the end of the day, right, we still have to go home.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So, and you really make it what it is. But so for again, right, for us, right, we find it healthy, right, because we don't hold back.
That's
right?
good.
So,
It's a very healthy.
It is.
yeah, it's good.
He knows I win all the time anyway, so regardless.
I was waiting for that.
I feel you, brother.
I was waiting
it's
for
like,
that.
one of these days, I'm gonna win a small one. I'm gonna win.
It's
a small
harder
one.
turning on. It's harder turning off the switch when you get home.
It
To
is.
put yourself back in. Right?
Sure.
Right, because then it's like
You're just husband
it's
at
just
that
husband,
point,
right?
yes.
And
Yeah.
then you're always losing. So.
Happy
so-
wife, happy life. as
Yeah.
my
So
dad
for
says.
our entrepreneurs out there that are partners, again, no holding grudges. Radical transparency, really, really critical to grow your business. Do you want to ask one more question, or do we want to move to the hot or not?
I just wanted to say, because again, I feel like what you learn as being a, husband-wife team that work together, how do you feel like you pass that on to perhaps the folks that are, under your employ? Because what they do can be very emotionally draining, right? Because, you have social media coming at you, and you have differing opinions in their household. And then they're coming, obviously interviewing before they decide to, send their child to your program. But what if there's a disagreement, 2 months in or 6 months in as to how, what they're, feel like they're learning or not learning, like how to, because it can be emotionally draining on the parents because it's a big change for them when their, child is no longer staying at home and they make the transition and they're, now working. Can be emotionally draining on the teachers. So how do you feel like how you've communicated with each other, how you pass that on as like a coach, and or mentor to your employees, but also how you coach the parents through, any disagreements that might come up?
So I think that really goes to our parent-child teacher experience. Like, we're always providing, the best experience for everybody. And, our families, along with our employees, are our top priority because that's what runs our business.
Right.
And, if there is something that goes wrong, we are making sure that we are doing whatever we can to fix that for that family. And, Corey and I are either one of us is there on a day-to-day basis, or sometimes the both of us are there. So we still have that interaction with the families. And, even with our directors, like they are jumping in and, doing what they need to do to make sure that, everyone has that, Celebree experience, and that has gone across above and beyond. So
And what I'm just going to add to what you're saying. So what Stephanie's talking about with parent-child teacher experience, right? Again, that goes back to, right, how Celebree really separates themselves, right, from other, right, entities, right, other organizations that provide childcare, right? And, right, it goes back to Celebree's competency. So what she's referring to as parent-child teacher experience falls underneath, right, PCTE, right, is the actual acronym, right, underneath our brand competency, right? And that brand competency, right, is very much focused on what we're doing right from when we interview a staff member, right? They're interviewed on PCETE, right? We're asking specific questions.
What is that, PC?
So it's parent-child teacher experience, right? That's right. It's how we evaluate, right? How we're engaging the families, right? How we're engaging the children, right? How we engage in our teachers, right? Because for us, it's not just about, right, one specific demographic within the school being the parent, right? It's just not about the teachers. It's just not about the child. It's about everybody. Culturally, right? It's very important for us, right, that we're hitting certain benchmarks within right, our processes, right, to make sure we're providing the best experience to everybody. So, right, and we have different processes in place, like on our talent. Celebree very much advocates, right, that we spend, right, we should spend at least 50% of our time, right, underneath the talent competency. So if we're not doing RHS, right, with recruit, hire, and staffing, we're doing TBI with Team Build and Inspire, which is huge, right?
Yeah.
When you say thank you to a team member, right, how far does that go, right? It does, right? Just saying thank you, right, or acknowledging, right, them, giving them a kudos, right, and don't give them a shout out, like right, the daily teacher communication that I send out every day, acknowledging a birthday, an anniversary, right, if they get their certification, right?
Yeah.
Right, it goes all along with that. So when we're looking at culturally how we're shaped as a company, and how we connect from talent to PCTE, right? It very much defines who we are, right? Because we live that, right? Culturally, when we bring team members on board, we talk about employee investment cycle. We even have a flip chart, right, of what an employee investment cycle looks like that we sit down in front of them at the interview time, right? And we go through, right, what their life is going to look like, right? On 30-day, you're going to get a smart action plan, right? And we're going to be going over, right, where we see all of your great strengths, and then we're going to go, right, where we see where you could build, right, on needs for improvement, right?
Yeah.
Right? Which is realistic in any workplace, right? And then we're hitting, right, their IGPs, right, their internal growth plans. And we're just going on from there, right, as far as their employee investment cycle goes. So
Yeah.
when you explain this all to somebody just starting out at the interview process,
I like that term, employee investment cycle,
100%.
because it's them investing time in growing.
Yep.
I love that. All right, so we're going to move into our next segment, which is really straightforward, hot or not. We're going to kind of hit on is this something that's a hot topic in your industry or not? Feel free to elaborate. Just you don't have to just say hot or not. But I'm going to let Annette, you drop the first question.
So I'm not sure how it works in Celebree, but I know in the world we live in today, a lot of parents like to sneak peek into what's happening throughout the day. So I would say parent apps that ping, every diaper change, every, interaction with the child is hot or not?
I would say hot in terms of having an open door policy.
Yeah.
We have an app, right, for parents to get updates, but we'd rather have parents come into the building whenever they feel the need to, right, to come sit and watch and observe, right? Right. We love having parents come into the building from that, community standpoint. So that's why all of our classrooms have these big open windows where parents can come in, just pop their head in real quick and be able to view and watch, right? Or come in, right, and spend time with their child. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I love that because, again, we were, we had our children at a early learning school as well. And what I loved around the app was that, which you guys probably do, is I would see pictures of my child doing an activity, which is, I think,
Yep, 100%.
awesome. And you're capturing that when I would never be able to see that. If I'm at the office and I, get a little thing pops up on my phone, I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. All right. James didn't hurt anyone today. That's great, But I think that's awesome. How about this? Business owners now hiring friends, hot or not?
Not.
Do we have an experience with that?
I have experience with that from my previous
Okay.
20 years in operation, so that's just an untenable situation.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you mentioned spending time, with employees, but do you have like retreats where you try to get to know their, spouses or significant others, those sorts of things, hot or not?
Hot, yes. We try to do outside things for them. We do, like, especially around the holidays, like for Thanksgiving or Christmas, like we'll do, last year we did like a dinner. Obviously, the employees are definitely welcome if they wanted to bring their spouses. We were trying to get something together to do a hayride this year. Unfortunately, that did fall through. But we always host a Falls Fest in October. And that's open to the whole public, so they could also bring their significant others, friends, families.
What's that sheet that we have? I always forget the name of it. That's the fun facts to know about the teachers.
Yes, their favorite things.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So it's a sheet,
Nice.
right, that, they fill out. It's a one-page sheeter, real quick, simple. And it puts down like the favorite drink, candy, foods, like, it's just a whole list of things that they like, right? And we can, right, again, from a talent competency, right? Go back to talent competency, right? And TBI, Team Build Inspire, right? We utilize that, right? So if we want to drop, a soda, right, outside their door, right, or bring them a donut, right, or right, what their favorite hot drink is, right? We have that information where we can spread it out through what we call our TBI calendar through the month, right, and be able to engage these folks, right, on a personal level, right?
Sure.
Right? To show them that we are there to support them, that we do care, right? Because when they're there, right, they're the lifeblood of the company.
100%. I mean, it's so critical because, again, we talk about it as a partnership. Is we talk about not only do we have to have a client experience for our existing clients, but we also have to have an employee experience. What is that? What are we doing for our employees to make sure that they feel wanted, that they're hitting their core values of, are we hitting on their core values of helping them grow? So I totally get that. All right, so I know how I feel about this as a parent because it drives me nuts, but themed spirit weeks.
Can we say like in the middle?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I mean-
lukewarm. We'll call that lukewarm.
For us, for Celebree, they have a fun day calendar for the whole entire month.
Yeah.
And it's not really like spirits, but like it, is trying to either involve the parents.
Yeah.
And that's just simply like having like a grandparent or somebody come in and read a book.
That's very cool. Yeah.
And then, just the regular good old pajama day, so parents don't really have to get the child dressed, and they just come in their pajamas.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, in a way, like, yes, we do fun days. I wouldn't really call them spirit days, but, just trying to make things fun and always doing something.
Yeah, because you want to create engagement, right?
Yeah.
Right, because it's easy, right, to not do anything,
Right.
right. But we try to create fun and engaging, right? Whether it's an activity or an event or a theme, right? Such as pajama day or wear your clothes backwards day. There's hundreds of different ideas they come up with. They always do a fantastic job of producing this, right? This material for us, right? Because we have Celebree, Celebree corporate side, and then you have Celebree franchise side. And Celebree corporate side, right? Does a phenomenal job from their marketing team, like Laura Moran, right, and all her staff, right, do this phenomenal job of pushing out this wealth of information from a marketing standpoint, right, for us franchisees to be able to build on. So, and that's probably one of the things that we really enjoy too, right, is the relationship that we have with the corporate side, right, is that we're constantly supported. So when we have our fun days calendar, right, we're getting all that given to us. We just got to execute on it, right? And families love it, right? Kids love it, families love it, right? It really just helps the days go by.
I love that.
Nice. And this is maybe not so much for you, but maybe more so for the teachers. But we live in a different world today. So what happens if that teacher, or perhaps even you, have to step in from time to time as that like temporary parent, when a child is misbehaving, like hot or not? Do you shy away from that? Is it the parent has to be called? Are there certain, things that you can correct and or implement if that happens?
So, I mean, we do a lot of training, right? And it's something that we recommend to everybody that's not familiar with it to go online and read up, right, and learn about, right, is through conscious discipline, right? Right, and conscious discipline, right, there's a platform, right, that really works, right, and the brain states, right? Right. So, right. And, when you look at, children, right, and behaviors in our time now, right, it really teaches, basically all parties that come from all different walks of life, right, how to function from the same level, how to interact and engage with children, right, and be able to provide the same level, right, of response back to that child, right, proactively, right, while not being negative. So, like for us, right, it's, not for us, but for Celebree, right, it's a process that, we went through, right, in our training, and all of our staff go through as well, right? Wow. So, and it's a fantastic program. So, at Celebree, right, we don't have the traditional, timeout charge, right, and all that good stuff, right?
That was my next question.
It's a lot of right, redirection, right, getting down on the child's, right, trying to understand what the child's, where they're coming from, right, and trying to redirect them, right, give them, choices, right, while at the same time, right, letting them know, right, that, if they need time, right, to themselves, right, we have, options for that, which is, help with that, what's the word?
Like a safe space. So it's like a little cube to help with like their sensory, dealing with their emotions, looking like at the different kinds of emotions that you can be experiencing, working on their like deep breathings. There's different activities that they do to try to,
Yeah.
take a deep breath and calm down and take that moment to themselves, and then
Yeah, I think that,
Annette wanted me.
I'll
Annette-
steal the next question.
Well, Annette wanted me to ask this question. Career day featuring a financial advisor. Hot or not?
No, that was Jay. That was Jay. Hot or not. Well, I think, obviously financial literacy is really important, with what we do and teaching kids young, there's that responsibility. And it kind of intertwines with my next question, because screen time, I don't know how it works when they're, in your setting, but, screen time, around that 5, 6, 7, like hot or not, because I think it can be educational on many levels. It can be a game and downtime on some levels, but I think also it can be, somewhat addicting. And, if they're in a home environment and they're having screen time and now they're getting influenced by, videos and things that they, see, like what is your take on that?
So we are not at Celebree. The older classrooms, the 3s, the 4s, and the pre-K, they do have computers in their classrooms, but they are all based on the curriculum that they're learning. So, for example, if they read a book that day and they're now in their, during their rotation of their stations, and, you can have 2 friends at the computer, they sit down and they can go back in and that computer can then reread that book to them. Or
That's
they
cool.
can tie something into the other lesson that they did that day.
So it's more utilized reinforcement.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's smart.
But do you coach parents in that same process of, hey, when they get home, we don't recommend they spend 3 hours on their iPad? I mean, it's hard to do that. It's hard to, because you have boundaries, but
Well,
just,
how do you have a nice dinner?
Jay?
I've done that once, maybe.
So with our curriculum and the app that the parents have, they have the capability of actually pulling up what they're learning in that
Oh, that's
full
really cool.
curriculum. So even still, like if, Joe comes home and says, Mom, we read this book today. I forgot what the name is. The mom can go right back onto their app. They can pull up the book and they can read it right there from their phone. So
Nice.
they have the accessibility of using the curriculum and stuff at home. Obviously, I mean, parents are gonna probably use the iPads and things at home when the kids get there,
Like
but
we
that's,
do.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's guilty
I
of it.
mean,
Like we do.
for a while, we were just stuck with it, especially, as, two of our children were in school when COVID hit. And so it was like, we
Yeah.
moved to this virtual environment a little bit. But now we've moved to, iPads are only on the weekend, so they get no screen time throughout the week. They can read a book, they can watch TV, but no iPad or, my son has a phone where he likes to think he's a YouTuber, but, it is what it is. I think, we definitely want to adapt with the evolvement of, technology, and our kids should be able to appreciate it as well. We're going to move into our last segment, which is Plead the Fifth. Now, this is a little different, so, than Hot or Not. You each, I'm going to give you each one pass because it's spouses, so you may not agree with it. So you each get one pass, meaning you can plead the fifth and not answer the question. What you don't know is how many questions we have. So,
So
So
use
he
your-
gets one and I get one?
you both
Okay.
get one.
Use
You
your
both get
pass
one.
Sorry, I was
wisely.
like,
So
rewind.
use your pass wisely. I'm going to start it off. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Who's the tougher boss, Stephanie or Cory? For those that are
I was
not
gonna say,
listening,
If you don't see the video.
if you don't see the video, she just pointed, and it wasn't at herself.
That's okay.
So, care to elaborate?
It's not that he's tough. He is, he thoroughly cares about, what our business is, and he wants to see it succeed. So I wouldn't really say that he's the tougher boss. I would say that we are probably very much equal, because we want, to grow, and, we want to be able to move on to that second school to provide, to a different community.
That's
So
awesome.
Makes sense. So you deal with a lot of different parent demographics. So be honest, which one gives you the biggest headache? Is it the helicopter parent? Is it the free range parent? Is it the my kid is a genius parent?
I think like anything, right? It's we like to think we do right a great job, right, with PCTE, right? So right, our interactions with parents, right, typically, right, is often due to right just a miscommunication, right? So typically, there's you're always no organization's perfect, right? Sure, there's going to be mistakes, right? And when we do have a mistake, right, we know it's something that we preach, right? Again, right, and just being open and transparent, like we express to the staff, right, and the leadership team, right. You got to own up, right, when their mistakes are made, right, and you just need to give mom and dad that confidence, right, that you're going to address the issue, per what they said, you're going to address the issue, right, and it's not going to happen moving forward, right. So I think the biggest thing for us, right, and dealing with situations with families, which you should expect as a entrepreneur, as a business owner, right, to have, expect things to happen. Right, things that you don't expect to happen are going to happen, right? So for us, it's just about being honest, right, and and owning our mistakes.
So basically, you're saying all parents have issues. I get it. So who's more likely to bring work stress home, and who actually admits it first?
I would say I bring the work stress home because I'm I don't know.
It sounds like
I
he's
was-
admitting it first.
I don't know. I think it depends on the day. I think it depends on what the issue is. But as we had talked about prior, like, even though like we are husband and wife and we are partners in a business, we can't leave one in one place and one in the other. So like,
Yeah.
even if we're at work, like I don't know. I feel like we figure it out some way or another.
Yeah.
But I think everyone's guilty of bringing work home regardless
Sure.
of the situation. So
I'm impressed with you guys, as just because, not only like you're working together, you're spending so much time together, then you're home, it's gotta be difficult. Cause I sit back and my father always said to me, he's like, look, your mom married me for breakfast and dinner, not for lunch. I gotta be at work. So he unretired himself and went back to work. So it's interesting to see this. I love seeing this. You guys got any tips for spouses? Those that don't even work together.
I don't
I don't know. We just delete and move on so quick.
That's good.
It's like, again, I'll go back to what we said about our kids, right? We coach our kids up, right? With being, not just physically, strong on the field, but mentally strong, right? And knowing who they are as, individuals, right? And right, just teaching them, right? So when you do make a mistake on the field, you got to forget it. Learn from it, right? Try to learn from it, right? In the moment, right? But forget it, because you can't hang your head and sulk, right? And let the coach see that you're upset, and right? And, let us see from the sidelines that we just drove 2 hours to take you through a 45-minute, game, right? Right. They're out there standing on the field, right, sulking. So, just, learning how to just forget and move on, right, and learn from it, and to that extent, yeah.
All right, Annette, let's try and stump them. What do you got?
I would say when you do go on vacation, who's the one most likely to act like they're just calling to be like, hey, how's it going? But really they're being the kind of helicopter, like needing to check in, or do you just have to check in? Do you feel like you have to check in and that expectation is set? Like, can you really separate and leave the office and go on vacation?
I would say it's both of us.
All right.
I would definitely say, obviously, we've been open for going almost 19 months now, and we've been on vacations during that time period, and some have gone better than the others, but we are, one moment he'll be in full vacation mode, and I'm in, like, vacation work mode, and then the next day I'm in full, like, it just, I would just go back to that it's a partnership. Like, we are really both trying to enjoy the vacation, but also still make sure that, everything is running smoothly at the school. Not to say that it wouldn't, because we're not there. It's just that we want to make sure that if they need that support, even though we're miles and miles away, we can still provide that to them.
And the leadership team, our leadership team, has the full expectation that they know we're going to be calling them, right? They know that we're going to be doing touch bases, because it's important for us as for them, right? They know that they have our support even though we're not there. So, right, there's not much we can't get involved with, right, remotely.
Sure.
So, there's so much capability now with technology, iPhones and laptops and everything out there. So, right, there's a lot we can do, right, remotely, right, to support them. But they have every expectation that we're going to be doing touch bases with them. Correct. Which should be the case. It's our business, right? It's our passion.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm gonna try and wrap this up. If Celebree was on Shark Tank, who would be the better pitch person?
Cory.
That was quick. That was really quick. I think you did great today. What are you talking about?
Thank you. I don't like to talk very much.
You did amazing.
Well, folks, that's all we have for our, I was about to say Shark Tank, but Behind the Frame podcast. Cory, do you want to let everyone know where they can find Celebree?
Absolutely. So we're at www.celebree.com. That's the overall, website for Celebree as a whole. We are specifically located in Newcastle County, Delaware.
Okay.
Up in the beautiful Pike Creek area.
Okay.
And yeah.
1 Middleton Drive.
Oh yeah, 1 Middleton Drive.
1 Middleton Drive.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So check out Cory and Stefanie, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.